Can a single phrase accidentally revealed by a family member destroy the stability of a world champion team? Today you will know how Red Bull has been in a state of shock by uncovering a secret pact between Max Verstappen and Mercedes. A co-cooked betrayal that could change everything. The real turning point came with the scandal that surrounded Christian Horner. The accusations, the internal investigations, the environment rarely in the paddock, all that undermined the authority of the team director. The situation became unsustainable. On July 9, 2025, Horner was officially fired, closing a cycle of more than 2 decades in the team. It was not a planned goodbye or an orderly transition. It was an emergency measure. For Verstappen, this was the final signal that Red Bull was losing control. During this same period, rumors of conversations between Verstappen and Mercedes, previously seen as pure speculation, began to gain strength. Toto Wolff, known for his ability to political chess of Formula One, had maintained discreet contacts with Max's environment since the first GP of the year. Mercedes, after a couple of years in the shadow, prepared his return to the prominence. The duo George Russell-Kimi Antonelli was promising, but incomplete without a consecrated figure. Wolff knew that if he managed to seduce Verstappen, the blow to Red Bull would be deadly. Within the Verstappen environment, the message was clear. If Red Bull cannot provide a winning car consistently, one will be sought that can do so. Jos Verstappen, an increasingly influential figure in his son's decisions, was categorical in an interview with The Telegraph. Max wants to win. He is not interested in running for 5th place. If Red Bull cannot give that, he will leave. There was no going back. The end of the cycle had begun long before anyone imagined. On track, the team was no longer the reference. McLaren dominated with technical authority. Ferrari and Mercedes, although still with ups and downs, were getting closer. Red Bull, for the first time in years, seemed vulnerable. And for a competitor like Max Verstappen, accustomed to fighting just for victory, that vulnerability was intolerable. That is why this first act is not simply a calm. It is the prelude to a storm that has been taking time for some time and is about to explode. Everything remains silent. Despite the erratic yield of RB21, internal tension signals and media pressure, Max Verstappen and its environment avoided compromising public statements. The paddock could suspect, the specular journalists, but nothing had been said explicitly. Until a slide in the most unexpected place broke total secrecy. Nelson Piquet Jr., ex-piloto de F1 and Kelly Piquet's brother from Max, was invited to the Brazilian podcast Pelas Pistas. Apparently, it was going to be a relaxed talk about Formula One. But what happened was a media calculation error that shook Red Bull to its foundations. With total naturalness and without measuring the consequences, Piquet delivered a phrase that would change the course of the narrative in the category. It was not a good weekend for Mercedes. But who knows what will happen next year when Max runs there. Reactions in social networks, specialized media and within the paddock were immediate. In less than an hour, that phrase was already viral. The name of Verstappen was again on everyone's lips, but not because of their sports achievements. He was now the protagonist of a potential betrayal, of a strategic movement that seemed taken from a political thriller. Piquet Jr., aware of the error, then tried to clarify his words, saying that he only spoke in hypothesis. But the damage was done. And as if that were not enough, added an even more forceful statement. They are talking all the time. The only thing is to know if you reach the contractual agreement. I think it will make a decision in August. If Max leaves there, his partner will be Antonelli. These words were not a simple speculation. Piquet Jr. is not any analyst, nor a journalist looking for headlines. His personal closeness with Max Verstappen, through his sister, gives direct access to the most intimate environment of the pilot. In the F1, where everything is strategically measured and filtered, a statement like this has a huge weight. It is not rumors without foundation, but an involuntary filtration from the circle closest to the protagonist. And the most disturbing thing was not what was said, but what did not denied. Neither Red Bull nor Mercedes came to deny the possibility of an agreement, nor are Verstappen. Just silence. A silence that, in the world of F1, says much more than 1,000 communiques. The calendar still marked the first half of the season, but suddenly the entire approach moved to 2026. The paddock understood that it was no longer about whether Max would leave, but when and how it would become official. Internally, Red Bull entered into containment mode. The sudden dismissal of Christian Horner a few days later did not seem a coincidence. It was interpreted by many as a desperate maneuver of the team to recover Verstappen's confidence and send him a message: we can still build something with you. But by then it was too late. The fact that such a close relative spoke with that ease and certainty about a possible change to Mercedes made it clear that the conversations not only existed but were advanced. Toto Wolff, with his usual ability to move in the shadows of paddock, had already sown the seeds. And now those seeds were starting to sprout right in front of everyone. These types of statements would never have tolerated in previous seasons. In the times of absolute domain, Red Bull was a perfectly greased war machine. Now their directive figures issue signs of defeat in public. It is a clear sign that internal trust has disappeared. The morale of the team is eroded and the feeling that everything is under control has completely vanished. The organization, which previously made decisions with surgical precision, now reacts with impulsivity and fear. Verstappen himself has witnessed this decomposition. It has gone from being the leader of a stable structure to become the only functional bastion within a ruined team. He has had to load with a limited car, assume the media pressure, and also be summoned by engineers to lead the car development. This forced role, almost unofficial technical chief, is the last resort of a desperate team. Red Bull has literally asked him to tell them how to improve RB21, something unpublished for a pilot of his status. Not due to lack of capacity, but because it is the implicit confession that technical management has lost control of development. While Red Bull crumbles slowly, another actor of the Formula One drama is positioned with a strategic calm that stales in perfection: Mercedes. In recent years, Brackley's were not the protagonists, but they were not really absent. They maintained a constant presence in the upper zone, reformulating their technical approach, reorganizing their human resources, and above all, building a solid platform for their next great assault on the championship. And on that political and technical chessboard that is Formula One, no one has played better their pieces than Toto Wolff. From the Red Bull performance drop in mid-2024, Mercedes knew that times of change were coming. Wolff, who knows as few the internal dynamics of his rivals, understood that Verstappen's stability in Milton Keynes depended completely on the technical performance of the car. He said it openly in several interviews: Max is a pilot who just wants to win. If he doesn't feel he has the car to do it, he won't expect too much. In that context, the eventual arrival of Verstappen would not be disruptive. On the contrary, I would complete an ecosystem perfectly prepared to win again. Toto Wolff knows it. And Verstappen too. That is why the Dutch has taken his time, observing not only what happens within Red Bull, but what is being built on the other side of the paddock. He has attended the meetings, he has received reports, has talked with Brackley engineers. He knows that if he decides to take the step, he is not entering an improvised team. It is entering a structure that has been meticulously designed to win from 2026. The verbal confirmation of Nelson Piquet Jr. saying that Max could run in Mercedes next year was not an information error. It was perhaps an unofficial sign that the agreement is more than advanced. Toto Wolff doesn't need to force anything. Red Bull's collapse is doing the job for him. And while the whole paddock wonders what will happen, Mercedes waits serenely, knowing that the largest market movement is about to be consummated. Because when a champion feels betrayed, what he is looking for is not immediate rematch. Find a new empire. And that empire this time is painted silver. The August marks calendar as the key month. According to Nelson Piquet Jr.'s statements, that will be the time when Verstappen will make its final decision. And although nothing has been publicly signed, the level of filtered details suggests that the agreement with Mercedes is not only probable, but could already be written and pending execution. Everything will depend on the final state of RB21 in the next races, whether Red Bull can offer at least a technical recovery signal. But current signals indicate that this possibility is remote. On the other hand, Mercedes waits without anxiety. If Max decides not to sign, Brackley's team will continue with its current plan. George Russell and Kimi Antonelli are complying with what was expected. But if the Dutch confirms his signing, the entire board will be redrawn. Verstappen and Mercedes is not simply a reinforcement, it is an act of total reconfiguration of power within F1. It means that the most dominant team of the hybrid era would be preparing for a new phase of supremacy, just when McLaren and Ferrari are again in the conversation. The pilot market will also enter into boil. If Verstappen leaves Red Bull, who replaces it? Can Tsunoda hold the pressure of being first pilot? Will they try to repair someone like Carlos Sainz, or will they launch a bold bet for young people like Colapinto? Max's decision not only affects his immediate surroundings, but could cause a domino effect in at least 5 teams that are in the heart of all this drama. A question arises that transcends the simple results on the track. How much real power can a single pilot have within a structure such as Formula One Modern? Max Verstappen, with its pending decision, has placed a whole multi-champion team in an extreme vulnerability position. But it is not only Red Bull who is at stake. They are the dynamics of power throughout the grille. It is the way in which a future is planned and built within one of the most complex and competitive sports in the world. What do you think of all this? Are we seeing the greatest betrayal in the recent history of Formula One, or simply a natural evolution of a sports career? Should Verstappen stay and rebuild from within, or make the leap and become the architect of a new legacy? Leave me your reflection in the comments.